Welcome to What the Group Chat Say, the podcast where the group chat finally got a mic. We're three friends in our 40s talking about life, friendships, relationships, and everything we didn't see coming in this decade. I'm Bonnie, here with Kia and Drea. And on today's episode, Drea's in the hot seat talking about situationships and domestic violence. Well, I guess we can talk about Drea as Miss Situationship. What makes that in this era of your life the most appealing? Or is this just, hey, it is what it is? It feels like this is what you want, though.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. Let's just be real and honest. My kid might hear this, but hey, it is what it is. Um, so I would say that, as you guys know, at 40, I was like, maybe I want a real relationship, right? And people are like, oh, you have a real relationship. No, well, kind of to some, right? And then I'm like, oh, maybe I don't. And then the person that I've been with all these years was like, how do you don't even know what you want. So how would you expect me to know what I want? And then I'm like, oh, okay. Because every time I thought about living with someone or marriage, I got very anxious or nervous. And so then I was like, okay, maybe that's not what I want. So then I got my hysterectomy at 44. And I'm like, you know what? That was one of my hangups in life and about having a relationship was female issues. So then I hit 45 and I'm like, I'm ready for a relationship. And then I realized, no, I'm okay with the situationships to a point. I'm probably like the queen of them. But where it all kind of started, I guess, is where you guys probably want to know, right? Is like, how did I get to this point in life?
Yeah.
So I'm 47 years old. So I'll start way, way back, guys. And a lot of people don't know this. I don't even think you guys probably know. But I learned very young not to fuck with a man's feelings. Let me just say that first. And I say that as, and I'll cycle back to my childhood and where it stemmed from as well. But I'll start about me. Well, I'll say this. My my dad was abusive to my mother, and he was abusive to me as well. And so I saw abuse growing up, but I didn't realize how it affected me until I got way older. So I'll just kind of start there, right? So, did I think that that would taint me as a relationships as an adult in my 20s? No, because I was still learning about life. Okay. Anyways, so when I was 13 years old, um, he wasn't like my boyfriend, but I guess he was my boyfriend. But it was like 13. Like we didn't hang out like that. He knew where I went to junior high. And sometimes he would come to the school after school and we just talk or whatever. Well, one day, this girl that is a good person now, but back then, saw him at the school and said that I was talking to somebody else. I don't know why she told him that or whatever. So when I saw him that day, I was actually getting ready to leave. I didn't even know he was there. He kind of like pulled me behind the bungalow and was like having this really intense conversation. But like at 13, I think he was like 15. What's the conversation we're really having? You know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, he slapped the shit out of me. When I say he slapped the shit out of me, he slapped the fucking shit out of me. And it stunned me. It stunned me. Like I ain't gonna lie, it stunned me. And back then we couldn't just make phone calls, you know what I'm saying? But also I was also very private. And so and I am private unless you really talk to me. I don't always tell people about things I've been through or a situation. And so that situation right there was my very first. I don't, this is one situation I don't talk about, just so you guys know. I've never, I just remember going home and my mom was like, what happened? And I was like, oh, I got in a fight. And she was like, you got in a fight? I didn't get no calls. And I'm like, yeah, because, I was good for fighting. I was probably pushing 14, I think. Anyways, so I had a busted lip and a bruise on my face. And that was like the beginning of where I learned how to cover shit. So like, for about 6 months after that, he low key stalked me. And when I say stalk, like I completely cut all ties. Like I made sure that he never ran into me. So I thought he was gone, but he wasn't. And then I had a summer camp. I used to go to USC summer camp, played sports. That's how I learned a lot of sports. And I would notice that he would be somewhere by my bus line every time I was going to get on the bus. He wouldn't approach me, but he would be from a distance and I would see him. You know what I'm saying? And I would never tell anyone except for my one best friend. He's the only one that knew. And so then I started learning. I was already pretty street smart, so I knew to pay attention. So I learned to catch the bus.
Sorry. How old were you?
I was 13 pushing 14. So, or was I 14? I think I was 13 pushing 14 because I feel like this started when I was like probably a month before my 14th birthday. And then it went into the summer. And so that's when I was 14. And so I kept that secret and I didn't know how, like, yeah, my dad was from a neighborhood, yeah, this and that, but I didn't live with him no more. And I definitely was not going to talk to him about it because me and him never had a good relationship. I didn't want to scare my mom. If I thought it was something I can handle, because I was that kid who had that straight A's, fought a lot at school, but I was hood as fuck. Out of the shit I did, no one would know I did because I kept that shit such a secret because I was always raised, don't bring drama to your house. Um, People don't need to know certain things about you. You know, my dad and them did things in our household. So I was raised very young. Keep that shit quiet. You know what I'm saying? You handle your shit by yourself. So I already took the city bus by myself. I already was pretty much, like I said, in my mind, I was grown. So I just learned how, I knew how to keep a razor blade in my hair. I knew how to keep certain shit in my bag. So in my mind, I can handle this. And then, so that was done. That finally, I don't even know how that disappeared. I think he finally just gave up bothering me. You know what I'm saying? Because after about a month, like about 3 weeks of me seeing him by my bus stop, he finally one day was at the bus stop. Like he figured out which one I was at. And at that time, we had some words. And then my best friend, I had been telling him, so he wasn't in the program, but he one day popped up. And so some words were handled. We just gonna leave it at that. Some things was handled. Um, and he finally left me alone. So that was that. So what I'm saying is I learned very young, don't fuck with a man's heart, which I didn't feel that I was. However, did I have other guy friends? Yes, I was fucking 13, 14 years old. Like, who did it, right? I was never that boyfriend, girlfriend type of person, even young. I was more of like, I'm gonna do me, or I'm gonna just have fun, live life. I didn't really have boyfriends. Like, I just didn't. So, anyways, then I got older and I had my first like boyfriend that everybody called my boyfriend. Should say, let me just say this. In my entire life, there's only 4 guys, and I'm 47, that I ever actually said, oh, that's my boyfriend. So about 16, I got my first boyfriend. He was super nice. He's still my friend to this day. Super nice guy. Very kind, but I was off the fucking chain. And not saying like, oh, I'm out there fucking. I'm just meaning like, I'm talking to other people. But I found this boyfriend, very nice guy. He was on the basketball team. And at the time he was on the basketball team, I think I was either on the volleyball team or softball team. I don't know. At 16, I was on the volleyball team. I was in drill team and I was on the softball team. He was like a star basketball player. And then he ended up being my boyfriend. Super nice. So after that, I ended up moving to Arizona. So this is where it all kind of started is I never really kept a relationship. And if I did, I had other friends. But at 16, I was living with my second mom. And because back then, remember, we didn't have phones. We had pagers and house phones. So she had a rule that she wasn't raising no hussies. And so only one boy was allowed to call the house. And I had to choose. She made me choose. which boy could call it out. And so I had to choose. So I chose him, right? But I always had a rule not to mess with anybody you go to school with. But I'm not gonna say much about that just because I don't wanna hurt anyone's feelings. But so he was my boyfriend. Anyway, things started getting rough for me in Cali. And so I ended up moving to Arizona, and that's around the time I met you guys, right? So when I met
Yeah.
you guys, I still was not a relationship person. A lot of it was just from fear, or I just wanted to live my life. Like, I was never a girl who said, I can't wait to get married and have kids. That was not me. My thing was, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to try to make money. I'm going to try to get out the hood. I don't want the life that I was raised in. Now, granted, my mom was a great person. She did the best she could. So that I just want people to know that. But my dad, in the hood that came with that, was a whole nother level. So I was very hood because I started getting into shit on my own. And I still just had that, like, oh, I'm just going to talk to different guys and have, like, live my life. So the fun fact is, I met my son's father on Kia's birthday. On Kia's 18th birthday, I took Kia to the club because I was a club girl. I was a going out girl. I was a turn up girl. Kia, do you remember us meeting my son's father or us going out for your 18th birthday?
I sure do remember here. I remember us thinking like, dang, if they gonna let me in the club, it's technically my birthday. So yes, I definitely remember that night fully.
Yes. So I met him. And at that time, I was already going to ASU, I think, when we met him. Or we just started ASU. I just started ASU because this was I'm dating myself, 1997. So met him, and at that time I had my own apartment, and he had came to Arizona from Texas, and he was going to MCC. So I'm thinking, okay, I got me a guy who's in college too. Okay, we're good. But I still did talk to other people, but I wasn't like talking to other. I mean, I was, but I wasn't. Me and him clicked like immediately. We were good. We had a good time. We like to hang out. It was all great until I got pregnant. I got pregnant within 6 months of knowing him, guys, like real talk. And one of the reasons was is I lost my apartment and I didn't have the urge to like I had it. Where was I gonna go? I was gonna have to go back home. Like I'm a college student. My mama's like, what you know what I mean? My stepdad was alive at the time. My sister was younger than me. She's still living in a house, 2 bedroom apartment. Like I was really trying. And so my mom had a rule. My mom's rule was when I did move back or go back, was if you're not home by midnight, then you better find somewhere else to stay because you're not going to come up in my house at all hours of the night, right? So I was with my son's father all the time. Long story short, got pregnant with from my son's father, and he started acting weird. Like I started seeing a different side of him, like very controlling, very aggressive. And that was like the one time in my life where I legit did not talk to other people, had no other men in my life. I did have a guy best friend at the time who he was not fond of. I started seeing a shift in him. And then he put his hands on me while I was pregnant. There was a situation where we were at, um, I can't remember if it was his apartment or his friend's apartment. And I was probably, I want to say like 5 or 6 months pregnant. I had just got there. He got upset with me for some reason, but I know he was talking to other chicks. And you know, a lot of guys, they get defensive. And mind you, my son's father was like 285. And at the time I was like a buck 60, maybe 150. Like, believe it or not, I was pretty small, you know? Um, and I just remember us having a disagreement, and he literally grabbed me by the neck and kind of leaned me over the rail of the apartment because we were upstairs. And I was like, what the fuck? But I'm a fighter, right? So I immediately started swinging and he backed up off me. So that's something about me. I didn't give a fuck who the fuck he was, especially at 18, 19 years old. I've been fighting now for 6, 7 years. Like, you put your hands on me, it's on and cracking. So, pregnant or not, you know what I'm saying? So I swung on him. He backs back. And I think he thought, like, oh, Like that was like an isolated situation to a point. So as time goes on, he would just be really fucking rude or wanting to know where I'm at all times, like just really controlling. And then I ended up having my son, and everything was pretty much cool to a point. He made a comment to me when I had my son, and we had an argument, and I never really talked about it, but like I went through, mind you guys, I'm a college student at ASU. I literally got pregnant my second semester of my freshman year at ASU. So I was looking, because of judgment and how I was raised, like in the neighborhoods I was raised and what I didn't want to become. I was so fearful I was going to become that. For one, I come from a Mexican family. You have kids with someone, you be with them, they married, stuff like that. So I had that shame on my own head. And then also, I always thought to myself too, like I was going through like postpartum depression when I had my son. I was super depressed because I was like, in my mind, I fucked my life up. How could I do this to myself? All these different things. So I wasn't in a good place. I was just not in a good place.
You were going through that at the time where having counseling wasn't a thing, and like at least in the Black households. So was it the same in like the Mexican household? Like, what the fuck is a
Yeah.
counselor for? Like, keep
Mental
your
health.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like in the business that happened in this house, stay in this house. So you're
Right.
dealing with that. Yeah. Okay.
But here's the kicker though. In my mind, I didn't need no counseling because I didn't know really what postpartum depression was. I didn't know. This is how I knew I was depressed, right? I had my son. I had a C-section, horrible pain, horrible pregnancy, sick all the time, had my son. He's now sick. I'm sitting here like, I just want to go back to school. I got a job because me and him were not living together. I was living at my mom's house, and I didn't realize I had postpartum depression until I went back to college. So I basically I finished ASU my second semester, but I finished with all D's. So once my son, I had my son in December, January, February, I was back to work. And then my son's father had his own apartment. Sometimes me and my son would go stay there, but sometimes I knew he was up to some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like he was also a year older, so he was on some shit, but I didn't give a fuck. Like, this our kid. I ended up going to MCC, so the community college. By now, he's dropped out of school, so he's not even in school anymore. I started noticing shifts in him, like a lot of shifts, like the people he was hanging out with. He started finding him little hoes, like all this stuff. Then I go back to MCC. That's when I realized I was in postpartum, because now I'm back in school, I'm in working, and I'm back on my grind, and I'm feeling good about my life because now I'm back on track. I can do this. I'm gonna finish school. But my son's father stopped going to school. So he was just working, partying, and hanging with his friends. He was on a different level. I don't know how it happened, but when my son was about 5 months old, my son's father kept having issues. And a lot of it was because of like females that he had, right? Or just different shit. And we would argue sometimes, and sometimes he'd push me. Well, now I ain't pregnant. So what's up, bro? What's up? You know what I'm saying? So in my head, it was not like domestic violence or abuse. It was more of, fuck it, we gonna fight type of thing, you know? And so one day, I went to his house, and I had been there for a long time, and I don't know, someone called or something, and I was like, what the fuck? And he threw something at me, and then he got up and he got really aggressive with me. My son was there at the house, and so was his cousin. And he got real aggressive, and he started pushing me all through his room. And every time he pushed me, mind you, like I said, I was small. I get up and push him back, or I hit him or something. And then when I try to leave, he came chasing after me. And I had cooked breakfast, and the grease was still hot. And I threw a hot pot of grease at him, bacon grease. I threw it at him. It splattered on him, but the pot fell on the floor. So now he's really pissed, and he's coming for me. At the time, thank God for his cousin, because his cousin had grabbed my son, and his cousin just held my son. And I don't know where he was at with him, but he got to literally try to fight me. And so, like, when I tell you we fucked that house up, like we fucked the house up, there was a table that was already broke, but it broke. Just remember that table was already broke, but it broke, like it fell apart when I hit it, but not because of me. It was already broke. So when I try to leave and I grab my son, I had a car, I try to leave. He's coming after me. I'm screaming, somebody call the fucking police. And at the time when the police showed up, I was like, we had a disagreement, like everything's good. They're like, no, they went and talked to him. This motherfucker told him all kind of shit, showed him, said I broke the furniture when it was already broke. Long story short, I got arrested. So I got arrested. And at that time, although that was a son, I had my son and I refused to let my son go before he can handcuff me. And so my son's father's cousin, I love him to death. We're still close. I love him. He has always had my back because what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. Because out of anybody who's seen the problems and abuse that I dealt with him was him because they lived together. I gave my son to him and I said, I just remember telling him, here's the keys to my fucking car. Here is my son. Do not give my son to his father and you take him to my mama. Let my mama know I'm going to jail. And when I get out, I'll call. Because I was always raised because of all the people that went to jail. If you go to jail, you don't call home to get taken out. Like we don't bail people out, especially if you're on some bullshit. So it is what it is. So anyways, I got arrested. He didn't, I did. And when I got arrested, he actually lived close to the jail. So I went to jail in Mesa and he lived close to the Mesa jail. I got out about, I don't know if it was 24 hours or 36 hours later. I was released on OR and I only had, now mind you, I went to jail in some flip-flops, a tank top, and some short ass shorts. Okay. And I only had, I think when I got out of jail, I think I had like 25 cents on me, not even really enough to make a call, because I needed a way to get home. And I was probably about 5 miles. So I was going to walk, but it was May. Like it was hot, guys. So I ended up going by his house, even though I wasn't supposed to. I went and go by his house and I saw him with somebody, but I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I need fucking money for a phone. Like, I need to call somebody. So he literally threw change at me and I took it. And then I went and called for a ride and I got back to my house. So that was like my first real relationship where, and that's not the first isolated occasion. Like we fought again because I was on probation for a year. And in that year, he would make my life miserable. He would come around and he would try to antagonize me. He'd put his hands on me and I'd still fight back. But he put his hands on me and stuff and then say to me, don't fucking piss me off because I'm gonna call your probation officer or I'm gonna call the court. So he would try to get me to violate, even though I was on unsupervised probation, going through anger management and all these different counseling classes I had to go through, which actually were really good for me, right? So antagonizing me every single time I saw him. And that is where some of my stuff first started, where I was like, fuck a relationship, fuck this shit. I'm not going to go through this. So here's the big kicker where it really went down. My son was probably almost a year old, or no, he hit a year. He hit a year. My son was a year now. And in that year, my life was hell. It was like, I try to move on. He wouldn't let me. I try to do this. He just kept, but yet he's doing his own thing. And that bothers me about men. It's like, if you're doing you, do you and let me do me. That's where my own issue has always been with guys.
So friend, so 16 first abuse. The one with your
14.
son's father. 14.
Yeah, no,
my bad.
14.
14.
Mhm.
14, your
Mhm.
first abuse. The one that popped off with your son's father. How old were you now?
I'm 20.
Okay.
So my son's
Hey.
father hit me first when I was 19. I was pregnant at 19. But when it really
Alright.
got bad is when I turned 20. So from age 20 to 21, it was going fucking down in my life. It was going down so much that I'd go to work and I would cut my bangs to cover the bruises on my eyes. I would put lipstick on to cover the bruises on my lips. Like my mom, I had my eyebrow pierced. He pushed me down one time so hard that I busted my eye and I had my eyebrow pierced and I had to like take it out. I would lie to my mom and tell her that like I fell or I got in a fight or whatever. And I know my mom wasn't dumb and she probably knew what was going on. And she just would always say, like, you can talk to me, like, it's okay. Like, and I would just cover it up and I would hide it and I would just go to work looking crazy. Well, I did right before I turned 21, right before my son's first birthday. I snapped out. Like, I had been trying to move on, but he wouldn't let me. I just remember one day, he had came by the day before or something and we got into it and he suffocated me with a pillow. Like, we were fighting and he suffocated me with a pillow. And I laid there and acted like I was dead so he would get off of me, right? And at that time, I thought I might have been it again because I hadn't had a period. And then after he kicked me in the stomach and suffocated me with a pillow and I acted like I was dead so he'd get off of me, I ended up having to go to the hospital. But come to find out, I really had a cyst. So that's when I first found out I had PCOS. And this is right before my son's first birthday. So, okay, fine, get through that. But after that, I just remember getting up one morning and mind you, I'm in school now. So not only am I covering this up from work and family, I'm like covering this shit up when I'm going to college. Like, I'm literally in college, one of the only single fucking mothers at our age, don't know how to relate to people because I have all this shit going on and I'm fucking going to school looking busted. You know what I'm saying? But I covered it up so well. I remember getting up and looking at myself in the mirror and I was crying and I just kept looking at myself and I started saying affirmations. And I looked at myself dead in the mirror and was like, you are beautiful. You are worthy. You are. And I just started saying all these things to me. And I said, I will not deal with this shit ever again. Like, I am not. And so that's when I got my power back. Like, I started getting my power back. When my son turns 1, my son's father and I are not together, but in his mind, of course, we're still together. He had been dating this girl, this white girl. Please excuse me, listeners. No racial things here, but she was a white girl. And me and my sister kept, like, Child Protective Services came to our house twice. And me and my sister each had a kid. And we were trying to figure out who the fuck is calling Child Protective Services on us. Because backstory, guys, I'm in college to be a social worker. Ironically, right? Which helped me because as I'm taking these social work classes, I'm also learning about myself. But someone kept calling Child Protective Services on us. And I didn't find out until like 5 months later. And this is where the biggest fight happened. But this is also where I completely took my power back because my son's dad wasn't doing well in Arizona and he kept burning bridges with people and all this shit. And his best friend died from drugs who lived here and all this drama. Well, there was this white girl he had been talking to for a very long time. And she gave him a car, guys. She gave him a whole ass car. She had money. I don't know how old she was. However, he was staying with me because he was supposed to be moving back to Texas. But he was going to move in a month when his friend can drive back with him. So he was staying with me. And I just remember waking up every morning. If I had a gun, I'd shoot him. If I had a gun, I'd shoot him. Like, I literally, guys, was in such a hateful stage of my life that I literally would wake up every morning like, I love my son, but I'm gonna kill his daddy if he touched me again, you know? And so one day, it's early in the morning, and I get a phone call on my phone, and there was 2 bitches on the phone, not just one, but 2. And they was telling me how he's this, he's that, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, they just going. And at this point, I've been done with this man for over 6 to 8 months. These girls were going off, telling me all kind of shit. And I were telling these bitches, like, I got a kid by him, so I have no fucking choice but to talk to him. But what the fuck is y'all excuse? Right? Y'all over here on the phone knowing about each other. What is y'all excuse? You know?
And why am I in it? That's what I'd be like.
Right. Like, listen, he just laying at my house until you get the fuck up out of here. You feel me? Like, I don't want him. Like, this motherfucker put it like, bitch, I don't want him. Y'all can please come take him. Take him the fuck away. And the car you gave him with it. The one girl, the main girl who gave him the car, she says to me, this bitch told me where the fuck I worked, where I went to college, what kind of car I drove, where my son went to daycare. She told me so much about me. She knew more about me than I probably knew about my size. And then she told me she's the one who's been calling Child Protective Services because he'd been telling her that I'm so broke that I can't take care of my child and we have no food in the house and no diapers and all this stuff. And then that girl, and that is when I fucking lost it. And when I say I lost it, I will never forget that day. I fucking lost it. This motherfucker been whooping my ass on and off for damn near 2 years, has other bitches, and then this bitch tried to get my kid took from me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, she tried to take my kid from me. And
That's that shit that make you whoop her ass.
listen, because my son was my life. Like, my son was my life. It may not seem like it because I'm such a businesswoman. I was going to school, I was working, but I was surviving. Like, I'm sitting up here taking 4 classes a fucking week. I'm fucking dropping my kid off at daycare at 6 in the fucking morning. I'm starting class at 7 in the morning, going to school from 11 to 12 to then get to work at 12:30 to work to 8 or 8:30. And then I'm doing that. I'm working 6 days a week, going to school 4 days a week, and have my kid. And a bitch instead of here trying to take, like, I'm doing what I can do. Did we have the most money? No, I was a broke bitch. You know what I'm saying? But this bitch tried to get my kid too. Oh, I lost it. So he was in the room laying down sleep. I gave my son I gave my sister my son. I gave my sister her son. I told her to lock her motherfucking bedroom door. I told her to put the dresser in front of the door. I told her, do not call the police and do not open this motherfucking door. I don't give a fuck who is at the door until you hear me say, open the door. And when I tell you guys, I live in a ghetto ass apartment, and it was so ghetto that we had a metal pole, like a metal stick that kept the windows locked. I don't know if y'all ever lived in a place like that. So I got that pole and I went and while he was asleep, I stood over him and I started poking him with that pole. And I told him to get the fuck up. And he rolling over like, what the fuck, Chevron? I said, get the fuck up. Yo, bitch, she's still on the phone. Get your ass up. Get on this phone. So he gets on the phone with her and you hear him arguing. And I said, and then I told her, I said, but bitch, don't you ever call this motherfucking house again. And I will take care of this. I disconnected the phone and I went to fucking work. When I tell you I beat that motherfucker's ass with a fucking pole, I lost my everlasting fucking mind. And that is when I knew I was fucking crazy. That is when I knew that I saw only black. And yes, did he try to fight me back? He did. But do you think I gave a fuck at that time, guys? When I tell you that that situation ended with me hopping in my car, telling him that I'm going to get a gun and that he's got 24 hours to get the fuck out of Arizona because I'm gonna fucking kill him. I said, I'm gonna kill you. I said, you try to get my son took from me with all your fucking lies. You have beat my ass for too long. And then when he tried to come after me, I hit him with my fucking car. And I told him I'm not fucking playing. I will tell you this.
Yo.
Yes.
Hit him with your car.
I did, because you should have got it the fucking way. I didn't hit him hard. But enough for him to back the fuck up. And I told him, you got 24 hours to get the fuck out of Arizona. I drove down the street. I called my homeboy and I was like, I need a gun. And he was like, Drea. And I was like, I need a fucking gun. Do you got a gun? Because I need a gun. He was like, all right, I got you. I was like, all right, cool. So I come back home. He's gone. I knock on the door. I tell my sister it's me. She lets her and the kids out. And my sister's just looking at me like, this bitch. Because like I said, I watched my dad hit on my mama, and I went through what I did at 14. And then I really tried to be in this relationship and I tried to get out of it and he wouldn't leave me alone. And I started feeling like I was being controlled and bullied and dictated the way like my dad would do my mom, right? At that time, did I know that? No, I just knew that I'm on fucking survival mode. And this motherfucker him and some bitch try to take my son away. And that was my life. You know what I'm saying? My son literally like helped save my life. You know what I'm saying? And I lost it. And that's when I really knew after doing the mind you, I just finished anger management classes a couple months before all this. Like I had to do almost a year of fucking anger management classes through the courts, guys. Like, And then that whole time he's sitting there telling me, oh, if you do this, I'll call them. Like he was using that against me and then try to ruin my life. So, anyways, long story short, I went to work the next day. Of course, I had bruises, and I get a phone call from, I think he thought I was going to care. I get a phone call from him saying, hey, my homeboy's going to help me drive and I'm leaving to Texas. I said, good. I don't give a fuck. Don't bring your ass back here. And then
Dang.
that was that.
I was gonna say, does he come back?
Hell no. Yeah, I can answer that. No. I know where
Wow.
he is too. But and in the fact, okay, so in describing you've seen domestic violence between your mom and your dad, and then in that, do you think inherently, well, I know you know now because you are a social worker, you're trained in this, but do you think inherently as young girls coming up in these situations right now who, because I would say I would thought the same way. Like, this ain't domestic violence. We just fighting. Because, motherfucker, you put your hands on me, I'm going to put my hands on you because we were raised that way. But do you think that women who find themselves in those positions, our first inclination is to protect the man because of our love, because we love them, because we don't want them to be hurt? Like, is it a Stockholm syndrome?
I'm going to have to say, okay, so for some, maybe yes, but for me, absolutely not. I knew before my son's first birthday, I did not want this man. I knew that I was done. But at the same time, I felt ashamed that I'm a Mexican woman who's pregnant and had a kid at 19 who's trying to go to college. And at that time, well, this is, 27 years ago, 26 years ago, Mexican women did not go to college, guys. All you saw when I went to college was Black and white women, believe it or not. And we were a very small percentage. And in my head, I was like, I don't want to be that bitch up the street with multiple kids from multiple dads on welfare. I don't want my family to look at me like you went and had a kid by a Black man and this relationship's failing. I don't think I was protecting him. I think I was protecting myself, like my own, what other people thought of me, because it was all about what my family thought of me or what other people thought. Not because it was a big care, but it is like to have dated out of your culture to begin with, and then to be beat on like my mom did. It was, it was also, mind you, before I came to Arizona, I kind of belonged to a clique. So fighting, running the streets was the thing I did. So fighting for me was like second nature. Touch me, we fight. Touch me, we fight. It was an instinct. So could I always say it was always his fault when I want to be accountable? Not all the time, but he got me to the point where anytime I thought he was going to get mad at me, I was ready to fight. I was always on protective mode. What I know now, it stemmed from that little girl who always wanted to help protect my mama. When my dad would hit on my mom or he would degrade her, I always wanted to defend her, but I couldn't because he treated me like that. He didn't beat on me like he did my mom, but he hit her a lot, or he would talk bad to her. He would verbally abuse her. Like, I had teenage parents. So I had kids raising kids, you know what I mean? And I think that affected me a lot. And then when I started the anger management is when I really started seeing the things in myself. So in order to get out of stuff like that for me, I had to really look at myself. And so going through those anger management classes, as much as I hated it, it was actually really good. And so did my son's father come back? Yes, he came back some years later, but me and him were cool. Like, I went to Texas to visit him when my son was like 3. I flew my son out there, but let me tell you the type of dude he was. Because he didn't have a car, when it was time to drive me to the airport, he had one of his bitches drive me to the airport to get home, guys. Like,
Wow.
that's like what type of shit. I come out here all the way with my son so your family could see him. And then after that, I was like, Mama, 'cause my mom worked for the airline. So my mom bless her heart, she's the reason why my son, aside from phone calls, because no matter what my son's dad did to me, I always kept a communication with him because that's his dad. And he never did nothing to my son. He did shit to me. And I was really big on boys need their dad. So I took the verbal abuse on the phone. Come to find out years later, my son's dad was on drugs. I would tell me and his family would get in arguments. I'd be like, he's a woman abuser. He ain't hit you. We didn't raise him like that. It wasn't until that motherfucker popped off out there where they realized I was telling the truth. My mom would take him and meet him at the airport and they'd exchange my son, stuff like that as years went on until his dad did come out here. I think it was either his 6th or 8th birthday. No, it was his 6th birthday. His dad had actually moved back to Arizona, was living with some chick, had been here for a minute. And the next thing you know, and my sister knew the girl, I knew of the girl. Next thing I know, he been put his hands on the wrong bitch and she pulled a gun out and was going to kill his ass along with her brother. So then there went my son's father. He literally came to my son's birthday party and then left because why? He put his hands on the wrong person. So then he left and then he hasn't come back since. He's come to Arizona one time. And that was for my son's game, like my son's senior football game. So that was, and I've never really told, like, so if my son listens to this podcast, son, I love you. I'm sorry I never told you, you're hearing it like this, but I never told my son the things that I went through with his dad because I didn't want my son to have a negative thought on him. And I didn't want my son to know those things because I felt like he was too young to know them because it wasn't for him to know because I do truly feel that parents don't always treat the person they were with or they love the way that they treat their child, right? So I didn't want my son to know these things about his dad because I felt like my son needed to establish his own relationship. Because my mother, even when she left my dad, my mom never talked bad about my dad, even though I saw everything. But my mom kept that shit to herself or whoever she talked to about it. She didn't just say, oh, your dad's this until I started getting older and I was a teenager, like, this motherfucker right here, that type of shit. Then my mom would be like, well, stuff like that. So I felt like my son deserved to have a father if his father was going to be that father. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Because, like you said, especially with little Black boys too, like it's like they need their fathers. They need that male role model. So I can understand not telling him what went down. That makes total sense. So then that way he could have the relationship and then form whatever opinion of his dad on his own.
Yes. Yes. And that's what he deserved. You know what I'm saying? Because his dad's family are amazing people. Like his dad comes from a good family, a really good family. They're good people. Like I would go see them at any time. Like even now, like if they called me right now, like I would go, you know what I'm saying? Because they're such good people. The reflection of him is nothing of them. So I wanted my son to at least know like he has good family. His dad just happened to go through something. Now, later on in life, that's the relationship. Him and his dad had established their own stuff, which I won't speak on because that's not for me to speak on. But that is where my son grew up thinking I hated his dad because he always heard us arguing on the phone, but he didn't know that his dad would call me and make threats to me, or his dad would call me and say all these horrible things, or his dad would say horrible things about me to him. And I would listen. I would hear him telling my son bad things about me. And I just took it. I just took it. I just took it. I just took it. I couldn't wait until my son became old enough to where I never had to answer the phone for his dad. And it wasn't because I hated him. It's just that he tried so hard because I know he loved me to ruin me. Like when he was going to get married, he had another, mind you, he ended up having another child who's only a couple years younger than my son. And he decided he's going to get married, but he called me to say, do you want me? Because I still love you. But if you're not gonna be with me, if you don't want me, just tell me and I'll go get married. I said, motherfucker, I ain't wanted you since our son was a fucking damn Miss toddler. You know what I'm saying? But he even asked my permission to make sure I didn't want him. So I always knew he loved me. It's just that it was not a good, he just was not good for me. We had great times when we were good. We had fun together before him and drugs and whatever else got into him. So I don't want to say that he's this horrible person, but I don't hate him now. If he calls me, I can have a conversation with him. I don't cuss at him. I just accept him for who he is. And that just comes with maturity. I would hate for something to happen to him because that's still my son's dad. And as my son got older, we have good conversations. It's just when we were young, it was definitely not, it was just bad. So that is what kind of then steered me to don't fuck with a man's heart. If you're going to be in a man's life and you don't want like a full relationship, then don't call me your girlfriend. And I'm not going to call you my boyfriend, because if we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, then we should better do what the fuck we want to do and mind your own business. And that's where that really got really deep in me, because I was always scared I was going to end up fighting someone again or getting hurt, or not emotionally hurt, but like physically hurt. And it really strayed me away from good relationships. And so when good guys did come when I was younger, I'd often just kind of pass them away because I knew that I wasn't ready, or I knew that I was either going to possibly cheat on them, do them dirty. And so I didn't really take any relationships serious.
So I was about to, on your pushing the good guys away with knowing that you weren't married. This is where you were going, and I was just going to ask the question, like, so how did that catapult you into the ex?
That was the most dysfunctional relationship I ever had in my life. That was my biggest lesson, guys. That was my turning point lesson. So, fun fact, I actually met him when I was pregnant with my son. When I was pregnant with my son, I had some friends who invited me out. I ended up going to a club with some people, and I met him there. And I remember telling him, I'm 6 months pregnant. Like, I can't talk to no one. He was like, oh, we could still be friends. And I'm like, no, I'm 6 months pregnant. Like, I'm not going to do that. He was like, well, I got a kid on the way too. And I was like, good for you, whatever. Right. So fast forward to a couple years later, my son's father had been gone now for probably a good year. And then I ran into him again. And then he remembered me. I didn't remember him. And then we just exchanged numbers. And so we started talking. And then I had other guy friends that I was talking to at the time as well. So at that time, I was talking to multiple people. When I tell you I was living my best motherfucking single life, when I started talking to him, I was living my best life. Anyway, he, I think, was able to get into my life to a certain point because he was so persistent and consistent. And then he had multiple children with multiple baby mamas. So he was what got him with me was he would be like Playa Drea. He knew what was up. His nickname for me when we first started talking was Playa Drea because he knew I was going to do me, right? In the midst of that, I used to be like, you're a gigolo. You got all these females, whatever, whatever. And that friendship just started evolving. He actually is like one of the only men I dated, ironically, who I didn't have a DVD player. He went and bought me a DVD player for my son. He knew how to fix cars. I couldn't afford to pay for my cars to get fixed. So he would fix my cars for free. Like he always had my back and was doing for me. However, he had all these baby mamas who still wanted him. That was just so much drama. Over the years and time, we were together. And at one point we lived together. And when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, he was around. And that was, I don't know, a long time ago. But over time, I would have to say that was he abusive to me? Verbally and trying to be mentally, he would play games because he thought I was stupid. So that relationship, we started becoming so dysfunctional that I knew he was out there with other bitches, so I had to need somebody else too. I kept telling him, just leave me, come back when you're done with all these hoes, because he ended up having some other bitch aside from his kids' mothers. He also tried to control me. He tried to control me by trying to keep me in the house or keeping the kids at my house, like his kids, nieces and nephews, my kid, my son, my nephew, so that I was always home. But I was like, no, I'm going out. Over time, there would be times where he would grab my arm or he would try to like act like he's gonna look up on me. Well, when he would try to look up on me, I'd swing. And that's when I started realizing I'm a victim of abuse. Every time this man does something, even if he's not gonna hit me, in my mind, I'm ready to fight. So that's where I can say now that I'm accountable and I know where I got to is I kind of started the physical abuse in that relationship. Not to the point where it was really bad, but anytime he yelled at me or he made me feel like I had to fear something, I would like push him away or I would, I would kind of like get ready, like fist up, even though he didn't hit me. And then as time went on, it just became so dysfunctional till the day that I had broke up with him so many times, and then he ended up staying with me. He came to stay with me because his daughter wanted to stay with me, and my dumb ass let her in by the kindness of my heart. And then he came, of course, too. So in the midst of that, I had told him that if you gonna stay with me, the day you don't come home is the day you don't want to be with me. In the midst of that, yes, we would have so many problems because if it wasn't his mama talking shit about me, all his baby mamas and all these, it just was so drama. But I was so broke then, and I had just bought my house, and I needed him to fix my cars. I needed him to do things for me that I couldn't do or afford to do. And so it became like I used him, but kept him, but we really did love each other and cared about each other because but we had the most fun. He was the one guy who understood that I liked the club. He would take me to the club with him. But in the midst of us going to the club, I'd catch him talking to a bitch. I'd be over there talking to a dude because we knew that, like, this, like, no matter how much we love each other, like, we didn't trust each other. He would put air out of my tire. Damn, girl. He would do little shit, guys, to fuck with me, right? Yeah. And so until that day, so there was a situation where my friends would be like, how come you never bring your son to like birthday parties or little gatherings on his side of the family? And I'm like, I just didn't trust it because I knew that they didn't always treat me right. So I wasn't going to put my son in that, right? My son only got to hang out with his kids if his kids came to my house. And he had a lot of kids. He had like 5 kids, 4 baby mamas. Like I said, what was I thinking, right? I'm in the midst of I was getting ready to get my master's degree, and it was March 12th, 2007. So March has always been a rough month for me. So March 12th, 2007, and he was staying with me, and there was some fucking party that happened, and I came home early, and he never came home. And then when he did come home early in the morning, this man tried to tell me some story. He went fishing, all this stupid lie shit. I know he was with his baby mama because she was one of those who she would try so hard to find ways to get like all his baby mamas secretly still wanted him. It was just so fucking dysfunctional. He didn't come home. And when he got home that morning, he came into the room and I was like, get the fuck up out my house. And he was like, I'm not finna leave nowhere. We're gonna talk about no, there ain't fucking shit to talk about. Like, motherfucker, you was out all night, get the fuck up out my house. And then he pushed me. There he goes. He pushed me and said to me, go make me a chorizo burrito. I'm hungry.
Whoa.
And I lost it.
I would have to.
And I lost it.
I would
I
have.
lost it. I started swinging. I told him to get the fuck out of my house. He refused to get out. And so now I'm trying to use my coping skills, guys, because guess what? I had my internship at the time was at the fire department. I am 2 months away from getting my fucking master's degree. I am now clinically trained in this. I should know better. Everything is, I should know better. So what I did is I grabbed my son and we left because it was escalating. So I tried to use my coping skills and I left. Where I made the mistake is I had a shift that night for my internship. So I had an internship at the fire department and I had my shift at the fire department that night. And I made the mistake of coming back home before going to my shift because I forgot my clothes. I went into the house and his brother's there. And I'm like, dude, why the fuck are you still here? I told you to get the fuck out of my house. And he's like, I'm tired. I'm hungover. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to work on this. Motherfucker, get the fuck up out my house, bro. Get the fuck up out my house. He's not leaving. He stands up. I'm not leaving. His brother's there. He was like, we finna work on a car right now in the backyard. I don't give a fuck. Y'all need to get the fuck out of my house. However, now I'm feeling like that little girl who's being controlled. My dad used to control me where when we would go to stores or shopping or out in public, my dad would put his hand on my head. And when he'd want me to turn to the right, he turned my head to the right. When he wanted me to turn to the left, he turned my head to the left. So now I'm starting to feel controlled. I'm starting to feel my dad used to stalk us too when I was younger, and he would show up at our house where my parents weren't living together, or I'd hear him threaten my mom. And now I'm losing it, guys. Like I'm fucking losing it. But I don't realize I'm losing it, but I'm losing it because at that time I'm working 50 hours a week. I have 4 classes a week, my master level classes at that. I had a 24-hour a week internship and I still was a mother, right? I'm already on my breaking point for my stress level. And this motherfucker will not leave my house and get the fuck out my house. Like I own this bitch. I bought this motherfucking house at 25 years old, making like $35,000 a year. Like get the fuck out my house. And he would not leave. The whole time his brother's standing at the door. And so I'm yelling at him. He's like, stop acting like a child. He's like, I'm gonna whoop your ass like a child. I said, fuck you, you ain't finna whoop my ass. So he stands up. I threw a cookie at him. I don't know why I threw a cookie. There was a cookie. Next thing you know, this motherfucker starts beating me with a belt.
Whoa.
He is now whooping my ass with a belt, telling me that he's gonna whoop my ass like he does his kids, and that I need to calm the fuck down. He ain't going nowhere. And he just kept beating me with the belt. I blacked out. And still to this day, I don't remember how I got the knife. I just remember that I had a knife in my hand.
Wow. Hold on, Drea. That's a lot for one episode. Let's split this into 2 parts. Stay tuned next week, where we'll continue Drea's story of domestic violence and situationships. Thank you all for listening to What the Group Chat Say. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.